Warning. What you are about to see and hear is for entertainment purposes only. The opinions expressed on the show are our opinions and do not reflect the views of BTW21 or its staff. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel and Chad.
God is looking for someone real. People are looking for something real. Just be real. Welcome to Be Real, the podcast. We're your host, Daniel Lewis, Brother Chad Hudson.
Hello.
And also Peckerhead. We got him here with us. Yeah, he's waddling around again, always overlooking everything we do. He supports us 100%. We're so grateful for him. I am anyway, and I know Chad is, and just we love him.
We have a guest here that Peckerhead wasn't here last time.
No, episode 20. Yeah. Brother Tom Perry.
Great show.
Great show.
I've never met Peckerhead.
You never met Peckerhead? Yeah. Well, there he is, brother.
Daniel likes to play with his waddles, and I told him you don't do that to a rooster. You don't play with the rooster's
Trying
waddles.
to get him stirred up. Anything I can do. He's so straightforward. And that's okay.
It's amazing how many people I know now that have chickens. They got their own chicken coop and stuff.
Right. Right. And we can get into that. But we have Brother Tom Perry with us here. He was episode 20, talked about Patrick County, talked about the Ararat section, Mount Airy, all these other great regions that we have here. And we're so blessed to have you back again. Thank you for coming.
No,
Man, I mean, historian, book author.
Last time he was here with a bunch of books that he had wrote and been a part of creating. And
he's been sold out.
There's no books here.
He sold
them all out. They're all gone. They're just, you can't find them anywhere.
No, you can find them, but we're so grateful to have you on here again. And just, we are Patrick County boys in Martinsville. Here we are today. Thank you for traveling all this way. Ararat's a good little distance. I mean, we travel every Tuesday. Thank you, Chad.
From Patrick Springs.
From Patrick Springs.
That's another 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Or if that.
Quite a bit. Yeah. Coming up 103, 104, however you want to get there. But thank you, brother.
Anyway, it's a pleasure to be with you guys.
Yes, sir.
I was at the Ridgeway bookstore today. There's a new bookstore in Ridgeway, so that's why I have no books.
Oh, nice.
Magnolia is the name of it.
Magnolia. We'll promote them a little bit. What is it? Magnolia Publishing? Or?
No, it's just a bookstore there. It's 333 Main there in Ridgeway.
Right down 220 and get on.
Yeah, on the business. And she's just opened in the last couple of weeks, and so she wants
a lot of local books.
She wants a lot of local books. You can get trade-ins and things like that.
Really?
But so I take her first run ones that I've published.
Heck yeah.
A lot of them I gave her were like people like Avis Turner, who I've published 5 or 6 books for.
Okay.
Avis lives over in Bassett. And Juanita Turner, I seem to be on a Turner fetish. I don't know. But Juanita's done 2 or 3 books with me, and we do hers. But all of my, I've got books about everything from Rangeley to Bassett to Martinsville.
Right. We want to hear about it.
Most of them are photo books.
Okay.
But so she's just open, so I carried her some today, so I had to be over here for that. So.
Well, I don't want to go duplicate of what we did on the 20th show. If you go back to episode 20, you'll see Tom Perry on here, and he's talking about all kinds of different things. But we do want, for the new viewers, we've had a lot more subscribers since then. Thank you. If you'd love to subscribe to us, we greatly appreciate it, and it helps us out, the algorithm. We're not trying to make $1 off of it. We're trying to support local, and this man right here has been local way before we were born.
Yeah.
He's a Hokie, proud Hokie, Virginia Tech Hokie, and
we saw that on the truck. We pulled in. We pulled in. He said, "Tom's here." Yep.
Yeah, you don't miss me. I've actually toned it down. I took all the magnets from all the basketball championships off to wash it the other day. So it took me about a half hour to get all the magnets off that thing. But no, I went to Virginia Tech, started in '81. I went to Surrey Community for 2 years. And went to Tech.
Nice.
I went to Tech for 2 years. And when I was at Tech, Bruce Smith was playing football for Virginia Tech.
Wow.
And so I saw many a quarterback die a horrible death on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
He actually broke Jim Kelly's leg one time.
Really?
Yeah, I think he played for the U in Miami. And I believe Bruce was in on the tackle. Broke Jim
man.
Kelly.
So,
And then he ended up playing with him.
I don't know how many Buffalo Bills friends we got.
Right.
Well, Bruce and him both ended up playing at Buffalo.
Yeah.
So that was
wow.
and the other one who was there some of the time I was there was Dale Curry playing basketball. And I was watching the Golf Channel last night, and they gave Stefan, his son, the Charlie Sifford Award for all the things he does to promote golf.
That's nice.
Dale Curry and Frank Beamer used to be a deadly combination. You did not play those two in a golf tournament. You would not do well. They were
I would
good.
not do well anyways.
Yeah.
Dale was really good. And Stefan's pretty good too, but him and Beamer together was death.
That's it. Huh? Well, I've heard a lot of those names that you're speaking, but I've never been into sports. But I'm always appreciative of people that are into it, and somebody that's can recount that and just be able to, tell others about it and be able to hear something. It's amazing.
Well, my father was a great athlete. He played 3 sports in college. That's how he got through college. He wouldn't have made it through college without playing. He really was a student athlete. So he played baseball, basketball, and football. Lord, the man played golf till he was 80 years old.
Really?
Yeah, he was an incredible golfer. He was about a 6 handicap, I think. And
Oh,
he
wow.
was the best. But he, like this weekend, I've been laughing about the U.S. Open. This
Yeah.
weekend, and he would have been glued to the television.
Yeah, I love it. My grandma, she was a big, college athlete fan, and she would love the basketball. Oh my God, UNC, Tar Heels, and I got an aunt that loves the Duke Blue Devils, and I mean it's just a common rivalry between all of them. But they just, it's just something a lot of people like to do.
Well, my father was a Carolina fan when they were winning. When they were not winning, he didn't know who Dean Smith was.
You seem to have a lot of fans when you're winning.
And if you brought up some of the scandals and things, my father pretended he was
Oblivious.
oblivious, just totally oblivious. He didn't know anything about that. But when they were winning, he was pretty. Well, I think he did it mainly to agitate me. He did it to agitate me because I was hokey.
Right. Straight up hokey.
Yeah.
I really love those things. That keeps the camaraderie and the family together.
It does.
I had a grandfather that listened to Yankee games on the radio. Didn't watch them on TV, listened to them on the radio. And I find myself today, after 40 years ago, listening to a ball game on the radio. There's some nostalgia to that.
Well, my father was a tremendous St. Louis Cardinals fan. He grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
And they moved to Mount Airy when he was a teenager. But growing up, he listened to the Cardinal, the big radio station St. Louis had. So he thought, Stan the Man Musial, there wasn't nothing better than Stan the Man.
Right.
And he really did. He loved the Cardinals, and he listened to it on the radio. That's how he did it, because there was no TV, there's no sports center, all that stuff. He listened to the Cardinals on the radio.
You got so many dedicated to it now. It's hard to listen to just the independent, whatever one is doing.
I think sports were just more valuable. You talk about your father. I talk about my grandfather. I think sports were more valuable back in the day because we were living in such hardship that it was a break from that.
Yeah.
It was a break from the family. It was a break from work. It was a break from World War II. It was a break from all these things Vietnam, and they were able to just sit back and enjoy a little leisure time.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the best hot dog I ever had in my life was in Yankee Stadium. It was the best hot dog I ever had in my life. Probably cost about $1,000, but it was good.
All beef hot dogs up there.
It was good,
man.
But like I said, I had a grandmother too. My grandmother, my father's mother, was a Braves fan.
Oh, yeah.
And my daddy was a Cardinals fan. So this got entertaining sometimes.
Yeah,
My grandmother's idea of a big day is to whip up a big thing of fried potatoes in the skillet, drink some Coca-Cola, and on TBS at 105, watch Braves baseball. Right after Perry Mason.
Right.
My grandmother was Murder, She Wrote, and then we went in and watched some football. But my mother always, like during football season, Super Bowl would come around, and my mom always took the underdog.
Yeah.
Didn't matter who it was.
Right.
She wanted to be opposite than whoever everybody else wanted to win and to do. So
I can't remember what I did yesterday, but I can remember the taste of those fried potatoes and Coca-Cola.
man.
And that's back when poor old Dale Murphy played for the Braves, and they were
wow.
terrible. They were terrible. And, but she was loyal, man. We sat there and watched them Braves games.
Yeah.
105 every day on WTBS.
Ain't that something?
see,
Ain't
isn't that
something?
beautiful though? That's a
It
beautiful
is. It
memory.
is. I love it. I love it. But we're here to, not only talk about anything you want to talk about, but kind of focusing on Patrick County and the regions around Patrick County.
And promote what
you
you're
got a
doing.
new book.
Yeah.
I have a new book about the old White Sulphur Springs Hotel, which was right outside Mount Airy. I love things that are along the state line. I like to go back and forth across the state line.
Amen. We're so close.
Yeah.
We're neighbors.
And Mount Airy one time had a 160-room resort hotel.
Good gravy.
And it was on the way to Ararat on Riverside Drive.
Really?
That's what I was going to ask. Was it on this side?
It
or
was on,
the
it's
farther
just
side?
north of Mount Airy, right below the state line. And people came and drank that awful sulfur water. It smelled like raw egg. And there was a hotel there from before the Civil War up until about 1960.
Wow.
It burned down in 1960, and sorry, Peckerhead, it was a chicken coop when that happened.
I love it. That's great.
It was like thousands
Don't
of
listen to
chickens
him.
burned up in the
Really?
fire.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Dang.
it was bad.
Oh, God.
But before then, it was a resort hotel, and people would ride
Fried
the train,
chicken.
ride the old dinky railroad up to Mount Airy or up toward Kibler, and get off at the hotel and go out there and spend. You had Broadway and movie stars and all kinds of politicians.
Really?
It was incredible.
Big to do.
It was a big to do, but it could never really get it going. It lost money and went bankrupt. And
Oh,
did all kinds
man.
of things. But
Well, a
that's
lot of
my
those
newest
places
book.
are seasonal.
Yeah, it was a summer thing. But they had, today it's owned, I think, by a group of the people, if you ever eat at 13 Bones in Mount Airy.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's some of the people that own 13 Bones own it now.
Oh, wow.
They've turned
Family.
it into a wedding venue. The hotel is gone,
Oh.
but they've rebuilt some buildings. And it used to
Wow.
be a chiropractor owned it, and he would have people do treatments and
Right.
stuff. And
So you said, what was it, 1860s to 19?
I have a letter, believe it or not, I have a letter to Jeb Stuart's mother before the Civil War writing about people coming and taking the waters. Before
Really?
the Civil War, yeah.
Wow.
So it was
Man,
a long
Life.
time ago.
That's lived.
It
Oh,
is.
man,
But
But you
It
could come
is.
out there and you could, today you can go out there. They like the tourists to come on Monday because they got events, but you can go out there and drink some of that nasty water if you want to. And it mourn Peckerhead's relatives that died. But it was incredible. It was about a 160-room hotel. So I wrote a little book about that. That's the latest thing.
Right. I think we got a, you sent me some pictures. I think
Yeah,
we
I
got
got
a
a picture
cover
of
of
the
the White Sulphur Springs. Yeah,
And,
White
there's
Sulphur
one in
Springs.
West Virginia, which the two of them get confused sometimes.
Okay.
The one in West Virginia is still there.
Okay.
And still operating. But the one in Mount Airy, it stopped probably after World War II.
There's a ton, if you go above, I think it's Covington, Virginia, is Hot Springs, Warm Springs.
the
and all
Greenbrier,
those.
all
Yeah,
of them.
Greenbrier and all those, yeah. So that's cool that
Yeah.
they got one kind of southern.
I spent a day with Bubba Watson on the golf course, watching him at the Greenbrier.
Oh,
He's
really?
watching.
I watched him. He was out there by himself, and I just followed him around. And
Yeah,
he
that's
hit
neat.
the longest right to left low ball you ever saw in your life. Thing just went forever. Just went forever. And this is after he's won 2 Masters and all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
But I don't know where that power came from. I was a skinny dude, and he could hit it a mile.
Yeah, I guess you just got the talent to be able to do, a certain gift, and then I would say talent, something you kind of get into and just boom.
But
Wow,
the,
it's amazing.
But like I said, the hotel was there from before the Civil War up until the late 1950s, and
That's wild.
When the railroad came to Mount Airy in the late 1880s, that's when people started really coming.
Now, just going back a little bit. I mean, we're in the South, especially where you're talking about. Where does the funding come from to create was 160 rooms?
Yeah, it's just, developers and people investing and things like that,
Right.
just like you would today if you wanted to build a housing development. Or something. People would do a hotel.
It just amazes me after a war of, that's the greatest war we've ever been. In my opinion, we've lost so many people throughout both, the Civil War.
Well,
It's
it burned
weird.
a couple times. It burned around 1905, and it burned again in 1960. It burned down. They rebuilt it. It burned.
Intentional or they
I
don't
don't think
know,
so. I
or
think it's probably accidental.
just kind of learning the technique of building.
Bringing
something, I guess.
electricity into the building.
right. Or
But
lantern.
it had quite a history. I mean, Patrick Springs.
Yeah.
Patrick Springs was the same thing.
Right, same thing.
And
Main Street Stewart, it was the hotel that burned down right there.
yeah, there was the Jeb Stewart Inn or the
Yeah.
Perkins, whatever they
Yeah,
call
the
it.
Perkins, yes.
But Patrick Springs, I think, was along the same line as the
Really?
White Sulphur Springs. I think the people came and took the waters. That was a big thing, hydrotherapy or whatever they call it.
Right. Soaking in the water.
Crazy old Stonewall Jackson loved to go to the hotels and drink the water.
That's weird that they, kind of went to the water of, just in the areas. And even now we talk about Patrick Springs. We don't think about it as, we think about it as an area or something that you would say, but people actually flock to those areas because healing springs.
Mm-hmm. Especially like when the Danville and Western Railroad was built, I think they probably really started coming to Patrick
Right.
Springs.
So they're kind of looking for something to draw the crowd to keep them there, I
Right.
guess, maybe.
Right.
I don't know. It's weird.
Anyway, I sent you a
Interesting.
picture of
Right,
young
right, I
R.J.
hope
Reynolds. I don't know if there's a statue. We'll talk Patrick Springs and Patrick County. If you go to Winston-Salem, I was down there doing a talk in the Salem Cemetery about a month ago, and we were right beside R.J. Reynolds' grave. And
Really?
all his family. And they're all
Now,
buried
where is that?
in Salem.
Oh, it's in Salem.
Winston-Salem.
Winston-Salem. Okay.
But if you go in front of what used to be the Wells Fargo, I guess it's still the Wells Fargo building. There's a statue of him right there in front of that building. You would never notice it if you weren't looking for it.
Right, if you weren't looking for it.
But he came to Winston because there was no railroad in Patrick County.
Oh.
Otherwise, Kreitz might be the third largest city in Virginia.
Right.
Isn't that something?
We're saying, I'm kind of glad it ain't, but in another way, you kind of, it's weird how history took that turn.
But you forget what a impact he had.
Right,
Building the tobacco factories and everything he did. But there's a statue of him going. Now, some people might not think that's good, but he came in there and started building those tobacco factories because there was no railroad up here for him to use. So
And his
that's why-
brother was the tin foil. Was that his
Reynolds
brother?
Metals, Reynolds Wrap.
Aluminum foil, yeah.
And his brother Abram actually was in the war. R.J. was too young to be in the Civil War, but his brother Abram was in
the Civil War.
He was.
Wow.
He was
and
in-
Abram was the tinfoil.
He's the tinfoil guy.
He's the
His
tinfoil guy.
family. I don't think he really did it, but I think his sons are the ones that did Reynolds Metals.
Okay.
And that's where Reynolds.
Did
Wrap
they
comes
end up going to Tennessee?
Bristol.
or-
They were out in
Bristol.
Bristol.
Okay, right out of
from. Went up
Bristol.
Bristol, and I think they ended up in Richmond. Seems like I remember used to be Reynolds Metals. was
Yeah.
in Richmond. But both of the Reynolds boys were there during the war, and you don't necessarily think about that.
Right.
The
There in Patrick County and Kreitz. I mean, it's just Hardin Reynolds, it's his boys.
Hardin Reynolds was quite a dude. The story I've always heard, and I don't know if this is true, but the story I always heard is, he was quite the businessman. He would plant his cornfield, and the first, 3-5 rows would be corn, and the middle would be tobacco. Because tobacco, you weren't supposed to grow tobacco. You're
at
supposed
that
to grow
time,
food
yeah.
for the cause.
Right.
But Hardin supposedly
That's
put the
good.
middle of the field tobacco.
Yeah.
And the famous story about R.J. is when the Stoneman's raid came through at the end of the war, Hardin had him take all their family livestock and take them up on No Business Mountain to hide them from the Yankees. Because you got
I see that from my house.
We were just talking about it.
because you got no business being up there.
We were just literally talking about this mountain.
No business
An
is,
hour ago.
is the view from my property.
Yeah.
That's what I get to see. And, to listen to you talk about these these people, these pillars in our community, or these pillars in what created the United States. I'm just amazed. I'm fascinated with history.
Me too, brother.
Like I talked earlier, my mother's fascinated with history. That's where I think I get it from.
Yeah.
But I wonder what's lacking today. What all these people, I just read a story about Stevenson, where my mom lives, and who built a dam, and who brought the railroad
And you're
through.
talking about Connecticut.
And we're talking about Monroe, Connecticut. Who brought the railroad through? Who was in charge of this? And all these great things are happening. What's stopping what do you feel that's stopping today from that same creation, or those same people that?
Well, it's tough around here. The economy is not that good. I mean, places like Mount Airy live off the tourism,
It
but
does.
Martinsville doesn't have Andy Griffith, so it's tough. And
Right.
you got to have a workforce. You got to have people willing to invest, and it's a tough sale right now. It really is. But my mother's the reason I'm all eat up with all this history too. She thought nothing. One thing I did this last week. I give a scholarship every year
You do.
to
Thankful.
Patrick County
Thank you,
Senior.
brother. Yes.
And what I do is I make them write a history essay of 1,000 words, and the one I like the best, I give the money to.
Thank you, brother.
I think we talked about
Yeah,
that
we
last
did, we did.
last
We
episode.
give 8 away,
And
Episode 20.
Daniel and I, episode 20, you go back and check that out. Daniel and I talked about that after we did the show.
Yeah.
And what
an amazing
thing that
Right.
that was.
Well, my
Shout out to your mom,
my
too.
father was a teacher in Patrick County for 30 years,
Yeah.
so I do it to honor them.
Wow.
But I make them work. I make them write.
There you go. I love that
They can
part.
write about
Yeah.
anything they want historically.
We got to know who they are. I mean,
And last year, the lady who won it, she wrote about the Holocaust. And,
Oh, yes.
she's a Hokie now. And, I gave it to
Oh, wow.
I gave it to Nate Large, whose family I've known my whole life. And Nate knew how to suck up. He wrote about the Civil War. Nate knew what he was doing.
He knew how to get to you.
He knew how to get to me. And he's going to be a Hokie too.
right.
So
Great.
I had a lot of fun with him over that. But but he wrote a really good essay. But I try to give it to kids who are from the Dan River district where I grew up, where my father was a teacher.
Right.
Because Stewart's got the Rotary Club and all that to give scholarships.
They got a lot of support.
We don't have that, so
No, you don't.
I try to give one to a kid from over there. if I
Amen.
can.
Well, I greatly appreciate that a whole lot.
But mostly it's been girls. It's been all girls and Nate.
They're smart. They're smart.
They
Guys are
are.
kind of chasing the girls, and the girls are chasing academics.
Well, you remember when Glenn Burnett was coaching basketball?
Man, I love Glenn.
Glenn used to invite me in every year to teach Civil War to the 11th graders.
Oh,
when they
wow.
got to the Civil War, in came Tom, and Tom taught all day at Patrick County High School.
yeah.
And I would, and it's funny what you say, because the ladies were far ahead of the,
Far ahead.
the
They've
men.
always been. Yeah.
And I had I did that for about a decade until Glenn left, and I had some great times. Whenever people start downplaying these kids and stuff today, I always think about that, because those classes, I didn't run into too many hucksters or it was no
Right.
juvenile delinquents. They were pretty good, and
Right.
they asked some very good questions. The problem you get into with that is you start getting the children and grandchildren of people you went to school with.
Right.
And,
I didn't think about that. They
and
got a history, family history.
Mama or grandma.
Yeah.
Well, I went
Yeah.
to school with him.
Yeah.
Ask him
Right.
this.
Ask him this.
So
Put that boy on the spot.
and this really happened to me one time. This is a funny story. I had this girl sitting right on the front row, and she just grinned at me the whole time I was talking.
Oh,
I
wow.
do this
She was waiting.
PowerPoint thing, and at the end, I make jokes. I show them a picture of Jeb Stewart at their age. And,
Yeah.
and he was not very pretty. And I asked the girls if they'd go to the prom with this guy. They don't know who he is. They don't know who he is. And usually Jeb doesn't do very well with the ladies.
Me neither.
This really happened. One time, this girl was just grinning at me the whole time, and she raises her hand during the question, and I said, "Yeah, what's your question?" And it was like, "Is it true you were sweet on my mama in high school?"
Damn.
And I said, well, "Who's your mama?" And she told me, and I said, "Yes, I was."
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And next question.
That's great.
I love it to death. Yeah, that's great. That's something
anyway,
to keep it local. I mean, it's just
but I did that because I talked to these kids about Patrick County and the war. I wanted them to realize that everybody wants to talk about the big battles and all this kind of stuff. But what I tried to talk to them about was what's going on locally,
Right,
And how
right.
and it got funny. Sometimes we'd have a guy who was a soldier, and I'd show a picture of him, and he'd have the same name as the starting quarterback at Patrick
Ain't
County.
that wild? Yeah,
Because these families are still there.
right.
Absolutely.
And they continue to, the same families have been in Patrick County for hundreds of years.
Yeah, I
in
remember
some
traveling to all these, and I think I mentioned on the episode 20 of just going to these different graveyards. It wasn't during my teenage years; it was later, and you would see Turners and Clarks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just all these different ones and Penns, and I'm just like, wow, these. What really helped me, and I hate that they changed the names because it's always like, you go down 666 or 620 or all these, but they changed the names of the roads to Abram Penn Highway. And so, I mean, I'm grateful for that because it kind of got me looking up Abram Penn. Like, why did they name this road Abram Penn? Or why is this Staples Avenue? Or, I mean, it just kind of draws you back to history. So please do not change the names of the roads or the statues or whatever, conforms to whatever what you got going on today. But I mean, it makes you look back and appreciate where that came from.
Yeah. Abram Penn was in the American Revolution. He was
Right.
He was big. I think some of the men under him went to Guilford Courthouse and places
Yeah.
like. But his house was out. If you go past the Reynolds homestead and keep going up
Right.
toward Bassett, his house is out there.
Really?
And the family graveyard, I believe, is out there.
Man.
One thing I was going to talk about today is mentoring. Not that many kids you think are that interested in history, but there are.
Right.
They are, and
Or
when
is
I-
that select few that's got
Yeah.
that?
yeah.
They got that drive.
Or
They got that. They
nerds
they
like
wanna
me.
know. Yeah, nerds like me too.
They're out there. They're out
Right.
there by
Right.
the thousands. I
Right.
mean, they're out there.
But you had Doss and Jared in here not too long ago, and those guys
Great
are younger than me, and by a decade or two probably.
Yeah.
And so the guy who mentored me was O.E. Pilson, who was a teacher down here at Drury Mason.
Oh, really?
And he was big in the Patrick County and the Martinsville Historic Societies.
Wow.
And Mr. Pilson, Ophus Eugene, O.E. Pilson, and of course Howard was his brother. You probably knew Howard, but he was big into the history. Mr. Pilson had a house he lived in with his wife and daughter, and a house next door where he kept all his history stuff.
All
And
right.
a house next door.
Wow. Wow.
So-
I
I've
love
got
it.
I've got a shed next door where all my
Yeah.
stuff's at.
Right. Right.
But Mr.
Well,
Pilson,
you do keep a lot of stuff,
I do.
You do keep a lot of stuff in your shed.
but the
I mean,
I'm
it's
a little pack rat.
the gold book that
well, I mean, that's kind of the same thing.
The
I mean,
gold
it
book
just-
that is a history of Patrick County, he wrote a lot of that. He wrote a cemetery book. He went around to all the cemeteries in Patrick County and recorded
That's
the,
what I'm interested
the
in,
names and
yeah.
dates. And you can still get that book. I think the Historic Society sells it. But I don't know too many counties that have a cemetery book like
No,
that. He was
no,
just incredible.
no.
But what he used to do when I was in my 20s, and I was thinking about we needed to do something to save Jeb Stuart's birthplace and things like that. Mr.
Amen.
Pilson would load me up in his big blue Chevelle, and he would drive me all over the place
Yeah.
and share his history. He didn't hoard it. He mentored me. He mentored
Right.
a lot
That's
of people around here. Desmond Kendrick, me, just all kind of guys who are my age or about my age. Mr. Pilson would carry us around and teach us history.
That is awesome.
And I know a lot about it. Anything I knew about certain things, I got from him.
Right.
Well, that was more precious back in the day, I'm sure, because there wasn't Google.
Right.
There wasn't look it up and you have all that information.
Right.
So
Right.
you needed to absorb that information from somebody.
Even now, you can't find it.
Right.
No,
That's great.
some things it's tough.
Right.
But he mentored me and a lot of other guys, and I've always, I'm just lucky that I had him in my life. He loved the Jeb Stewart's great grandfather William Letcher got killed in the American Revolution over there at the birthplace, and that was Mr. Pilson's thing. He loved to talk about William Letcher.
Amen.
He loved to go up here to Beaver
Be
Creek.
proud of that.
Yeah.
I would be too.
He loved to go up to Beaver Creek and talk about the Harston, not the Harrisons. The Harston, the hard R.
Wow.
Right.
And he, like I said, but that's, it's good for me to see doing what they do.
I know.
I'm not going to live forever, and
Right.
somebody's got to do it.
Yes. And thankful for
The
you to come back
combination. Now I don't know what episode that was that we had Doss on,
out.
but
It was
the,
this year, I think.
the combo of the two, they just work very well together.
they
you know,
do.
one does one aspect of it, one does the other.
And I really
and
hate
it's
it that I've
great.
gone on public television to say nice things about them. but I
Yeah,
have.
yeah. You were the one that recommended to have us on here. I
Well,
didn't. I had
we
no
all
clue.
we all make mistakes.
Oh,
But no, they do.
guys.
You
They
heard
do,
that.
they
I look
do,
forward to having them back.
They do a good job.
Oh, they do an
a good
amazing job. Oh,
But I
my
used
God.
to see Andy. I don't really know Jerry that well, but I used to see Andy like up here at the Bassett Historical Center, not
Yeah.
the library, but the historic center.
Yeah.
And he worked at Stanley Furniture
Yeah.
right out the road.
Yep.
I think he was an IT guy or something.
Right.
And he'd come in there at lunch every day
Wow.
and spend an hour. For his lunch, he'd come in there and
Isn't that
Just a passion.
just research stuff for an hour and then go back to work.
Wow. Well, it's 28 minutes done past. We done got the 2-minute warning, but we will come back and definitely talk to you some more, Tom. Thank you for
Yeah.
being out here with us. We greatly appreciate you. I mean, we probably ain't even mentioned anything that you want to talk about, but you're such a man of the history of Patch County and the region.
I will go off on a tangent.
I love
if you
it.
let me.
I love it. I love it.
And
Oh my
I will
God.
let you.
Yes,
Absolutely.
please. We want to have you on here a lot more. than
But
what we've
before
had.
you do that, we'll be right back.
We'll be right back. Please like and subscribe. We appreciate it. Thank you. And we're back. Thank you for joining us here on the Be Real, the podcast. Daniel Lewis, Chad Hudson,
Yes.
Peckerhead, and special guest Tom Perry.
Perry.
Yes. So grateful again to have him out here. If you will go back and check out episode 20, you'll see Tom Perry, a little bit more of a bio, a little bit more of a background, a little bit more of a in-depth look into Patcha County and the surrounding areas, but we're trying to dig some more out of it. I'd love to have him come out some more if you would. I know, try not to waste your time, but I mean, you historian, just unbelievable the knowledge that you have, and not only that, but what your parents have shared with you. And so I think we need more of that. I think a lot of people have desire for that. I do. My parents have shared so much for me. My dad's from Bassett Forks area. My mom is from Winston-Salem or Louisville area. And so it's just, it's beautiful to me to be able to learn a lot more than, she's a Hokie too, to learn a whole lot more about the area and learn where we come from, you know. And I'm date back my ancestors. John Questenberry come up here in 1651. 1651. And I never thought about it before, but I was like, wait a minute, that's before the American Revolution. Good gosh. I mean,
I've known a lot of Questenberries in my life.
it was pretty wild.
Yeah.
They seemed rare back in the 90s, and now there's so many more Questenberries, but all the ones I've met is women.
I knew a
guess
lot
it
of
kinda
pretty.
married
I
into
knew
it.
a lot of pretty Questenberries in Pilot Mountain. when
Not
I was
me.
a teenager.
He's not speaking about you.
My line is all, they're either in jail or they're auto mechanics.
I'm always working on a couple of projects. One of the things I'm doing is I'm writing a little Virginia Tech book about Virginia Tech's history. I call it Hokie history.
Yeah.
And some of it's about my experiences, and some of it's about the university and
Right.
athletics and all that kind of thing. thing, but maybe one day I'll actually finish that.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, you always got something going on.
I try to keep 2 or 3 going at the same time so I don't
Right.
get bored.
So during the break, we found White Sulphur Springs. We found the book cover. I wanted to actually show that because we talked about it a couple of times. It's Blue Ridge Parkway. There we go.
And
White Sulphur Springs,
And we
North
go back.
Carolina.
We can go back and talk about the Parkway.
We definitely will.
That's another thing I'm working on. I'm working on a book about. If you ever look at a map, Patrick County's northern border is pretty much the Blue Ridge Parkway.
Right. They
So
kind of
I'm-
followed it.
I'm writing a book about from Volunteer Gap to Tuggle Gap, pretty much. And
Oh, wow.
you think about all the things that are along the Blue Ridge Parkway in that span.
Yeah.
So you've got Orlena Puckett's cabin, which really wasn't her cabin. Her cabin was another building, but
Really?
yeah, that's a touchy subject still. The other thing, of course, you got is Bob Childress, the man who moved the mountain.
Yes.
All those
All the stone
churches,
churches, yes. I love
and
it.
a lot about him. And I
Indian
always,
Valley and all right around in
and
there.
of course, met as a Dan. Some of us are old enough to remember the Dan River Queen. We had a riverboat, believe it or not. We had a riverboat.
We do. I actually, my grandfather actually took video of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen
And
that.
Have you
That's the
seen that?
only video.
Daniel put that out there on YouTube.
Only video I've ever seen of it.
Yeah, we had a zoo up there.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff
Circle
in
Zoo.
Medicine. There was a
Right.
lot of stuff in Medicine. But I'm writing a book about that, and I've been. It's kind of turning. I get preachy in this thing a little bit because I'm just
Preach it,
dismayed.
brother.
I'm just dismayed by the National Park Service, and really no fault of them. They don't have the funding to take care of the Blue Ridge Parkway.
Right.
I mean, Mabry Mill, the pond needs dredging. It's
Yes.
terrible looking.
Yes, we talked about that.
Or
yeah.
Orlena Puckett's cabin needs a new roof on it.
So what are we looking at here?
That's
Christian,
the
put up a-
Mabry Mill
That's
and the
Mabry
Mabry
Mill.
house
Yeah.
before the Parkway.
1930s or
Yeah, and you'll see the Mabrys lived in that white house back there behind it,
Mm.
and there's the mill itself, and that it's right where the Blue Ridge Parkway is being built.
right. And some people see that and they're like, "What in the world?" Because that
Yeah.
looks nothing like,
Well,
especially with
it
the
just
pond.
I don't know if it's the shot, but the road just looks like it's a 4-lane highway through
Yeah,
there.
well, I think maybe that's them building the Parkway. The thing you notice is there's really no pond,
No
in front
pond.
of the mill. The
Right.
Mabry house is not there anymore. So they've changed it. They've changed it quite a
Big
bit.
time.
Well, life has changed it too, I'm sure.
But there's a National Park Ranger, Mike. Oh gosh, I can't think of Mike's name. Who's written a book about the Mabrys, and he's written a book about Rock Castle Gorge. Really good. He used to give tours of the Rock Castle Gorge. You could walk down
Really?
it. Yeah, he did a great job. Great job. But I'm getting a little preachy in the book because I'm just disgusted by how they aren't taking care of it. It's not just paving the Parkway. It's like you've got all these resources. One of the ones that just kills me is you pull off at the Pilot View.
Yeah.
You can't see Pilot Mountain because the trees are so big.
Right.
Daniel and I ride our motorcycles up through there, and there's a lot of overlooks that are grown up to where you
Yeah.
can't see any kind of view. Now, riding up the mountain nowadays, where they're doing the construction and stuff, there's views that I've never seen before.
Yeah, on 58.
You know, there's
yeah.
new views on
New views.
58
Yeah.
that especially after Krieger woodworking.
Yeah. Right.
There's a view up there to the left-hand side that
Pilot Mountain out there.
Yeah.
it is just amazing.
You ought to ride up and down Squirrel Spur sometime and see the views from there.
I try to just hold on to my motorcycle anytime we do that.
You realize what it's a pilot for a reason. You can see Pilot Mountain from
Yes.
anywhere, and if you can use it as a guide. I know I've have letters where Jeb Stewart talks about that he used Pilot as
Really?
a guide.
As
yeah.
a pilot. As a
Wow.
pilot. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, because you can see it from everywhere. He actually.
Now, okay, hold on. I gotta slow you down there a little bit because from what I understand, Pilot Mountain was named Pilot Mountain because of like a P-51, and then you got the airplane that comes up, and you got the pilot in there, and it kind of looks like somebody sitting in a P-51 airplane.
Yeah,
But
I've
if
never
Jeb
heard that
Stewart is calling it Pilot Mountain,
We ain't talking about a
we ain't
B-51
talking about
airplane.
we're not talking about no Mustang.
He did call it Pilot Mountain. He was home after he graduated West Point, I believe. I think it's like 1854, and he's he's traveling around. He gets caught at Pilot in a storm, and he camps out there and rides it out. And being he is Jeb Stewart, it was inspired to verse. So I have a poem of Jeb Stewart talking about Pilot Mountain.
So it's more of a pilot as far as navigation than it is.
Yeah, and he called it "The Dream of Youth" was the name of this poem, and he talks about camping in Pilot, and all this stuff.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know which woman he sent that one to, but. He was very romantic.
Shout out to Jeb.
Jeb was very romantic.
James Earl Brown.
But he did. He wrote a poem, and it was Pilot. And this is 1854.
Ain't that weird?
Now, you remember the old days that Pilot was the sponsor of ACC basketball on the TV.
Yeah,
it was an insurance company.
Never thought about that before. I mean, it's before the age of airplane. And they're calling it Pilot Mountain. I mean, I guess it's just a directional navigational thing.
You can see it from anywhere.
You can see it anywhere. It really
kind of sticks out.
Well, like if you go to the Buffalo Mountain and go up on top, you can see the Pilot from the top of the Buffalo, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So you can really see.
I can understand Buffalo, but when you start talking about Pilot, I mean, it's just that's weird.
We're just blessed by being in the foothills and into the Appalachian Mountains there.
Right.
I mean,
they just sticking right out.
And one of the weird things I ever found is Thomas Jefferson's father was Peter Jefferson, and Peter Jefferson and Joshua Fry and some fellows from North Carolina, they surveyed the state line from where William Byrd stopped.
Really?
He stopped on Peters Creek over there in Patrick County.
Really?
And from Peters Creek to Damascus, Peter Jefferson surveyed the state line with the other guys. And they did maps. And one of the things that Peter Jefferson, it's called I think the Fry-Jefferson map or the Jefferson-Fry map, one of the things they did was they go down into North Carolina just a little bit, and they show the Pilot, the Sourtown, and the one over there, Hanging Rock.
Hanging Rock, yeah.
They show them, you ready, as the mountains of Ararat.
Really?
Mountains of Ararat.
Wow. Now, we travel 704, and if you go down 704, you can see all three of those.
Yeah.
I mean, they just kind of stick up out of nowhere.
But I haven't found Noah's Ark yet. I'm still looking for Noah's Ark. But if you look at the Jefferson Fry map, they show Pilot, Sourtown, and Hanging Rock.
Which there's the Ararat, Virginia, and the Ararat, North Carolina.
And that's because the river, which starts up at the top of Squirrel Spur,
in Patrick County,
goes through Ararat, Virginia, and through Ararat, North Carolina.
Wow.
So they both got the name. And it empties into the Yadkin down near Siloam.
Oh, God,
Down near Siloam.
Old Yakin River. I was baptized in that thing.
The Ararat is not it's not a very long river, but it's just
No.
one. I actually wrote a book about that.
Really?
It's called Ararat River Scenes, and it's all about just the history along the Ararat River.
Oh, man.
And,
That's cool.
It's the river I grew. When we got out of the tobacco field, we jumped in the Ararat River.
Now, how, before we get any further, I want to mention how can we get a hold of your books? I know you're in every store just about.
Well, there's this magical place called Amazon.
Amazon.
I have a couple web pages.
See, Thomas Perry or
Thomas D.
Thomas D. Perry.
And there's an Amazon page, and there's also a page that I'll do autograph books if you want me to. But
absolutely.
The other thing I was going to tell you about the scholarship, we do 3 or 4 programs at the Ararat Rooting Club every year that I talk history.
We got a picture of that.
Kevin Smith calls it Tom Talks History. The Rooting Clubs support me, and we use it to raise money for the scholarship. So in July, we're going to have Beverly Woody, who's from over here, who writes that article every week in the Enterprise, the Patrick Pioneers.
Yeah.
She's going to come and talk about the Patrick Pioneers.
When is that again?
July 28th.
July 28th.
Sunday, July 28th at 2 o'clock.
July 28th at 2
and we do 3 or 4 of those every year, and the Rooting Club supports me. I appreciate that.
And where's the Rooting Club located?
It's in beautiful downtown Ararat. You just come down. You come down there. You go to Blue Ridge School. It's 104. You go down to Blue Ridge School and go down about half a mile, and it'll be there on the right.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
I realize
I'll be there. I
realize you Patrick Springers don't know where Ararat is.
Yeah, it's kind of on the western side. I love them though. I love them.
We do that 3 or 4 times a year, and
that's awesome.
we had Danny Martin come last year, who wrote.
Yes.
Has Danny been on your podcast?
No, he
You need
hasn't.
to
I was
get
going to get
Danny
him
on
out
it.
here.
You need to get Danny.
Right. He done the Moonshiners.
Yeah, corn
Yeah.
squeezing.
Yeah,
I
the corn
published
squeezing.
it. I
That's right.
published it for him.
I thought I heard that his wife just passed.
She did.
Oh, I
She
didn't
did
know
over
that.
the
Yes,
weekend.
sir.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that, Susan. She
Yeah.
fought it a long time.
A long
Yeah,
time,
she
but I
did.
think it was this week.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
know
it
that.
was.
I didn't
It
know
was
that.
a couple days ago.
But he wrote a great book.
Good
He-
friend.
Absolutely.
He wrote a great book about moonshining in Patrick County mainly,
did.
and there's a chapter about Jimmy Rohr, who lived in Ararat, who was the ABC officer. He was the dude
Right.
that hid out in the woods.
Wow.
Hid out in the woods and would catch
See,
you.
that's what I love about history, the individualism of the names and what they've done. Now it seems to be a company tied along with that name.
Yeah.
If somebody done something great, it was Nabisco. It wasn't Johnny Smith. It was some guy, right? It was some kind.
There's 2 or 3 guys in my life that I wish I'd wrote a book about, and Jimmy Rohr is one of them because he was an ABC officer, like I said, and he was hiding in the woods catching people left and right, and I could never get him to sit down and really talk to me about it. The other one I wish I wrote a book about was Fred Brim, who was a principal up at Blue Ridge. When my dad retired, Fred became the principal, and Fred was African American, and he couldn't go to Blue Ridge, but he ended up being the
Really?
principal.
Huh. He ended up being a principal?
Couldn't go to the school, but ended up being a
a
principal.
damn
Now that
principal.
that deserves
Man.
a book.
Yeah.
That deserves a
And he was
book.
such a humble guy, you could never get him to do it. His son was McKinley. He played football at Patrick County.
Oh,
He was
wow.
really good. But Fred was just a humble guy who you could never get him to sit down and let
Right.
me do it. I
You
wish
got, I mean, you
I
got
wonder if his son would be able to.
Hell,
give
I don't
information
know.
enough.
He
grandson or something.
but it's there. A few guys I've met in my life where I wish I'd written books about them.
Right.
I wish we had wrote the Life and Times of Locke Boyce at one time.
Right. You told me about that. That's the man.
There's a movie for you.
Oh, God.
There he is.
He wanted to make a
To
movie.
be honest with you, I was talking to someone yesterday about that. Locke Boyce was one of those people that we talk about history. One of those
yeah.
people, the things that he has accomplished in life, the things that he fought for the county.
And his
the
mom and
voice,
dad.
His mom and dad, regardless if you were on his political side or not,
Right.
he was still a voice in the community. And I believe that he deserves at least a freaking park bench.
Right.
Or
Something.
something.
I used
If
to-
you're going to be on the board for 15 years and be a voice for Patrick County
Instrumental
for
part of
30,
Patrick County.
40 years,
Right.
then I at least we should have done was give him a park bench. But we keep his practice open, and that's his monument. His monument is that blue building that you see on the side of 58.
Well, I used to see him at the Patrick County Music Association, and he would corner me and
Write a book about me. Hey, Tom, write a book about me.
you would spend a little time talking to Locke once he cornered you
Oh,
at the Music
yeah.
Association. But
Talk about Africa and everything.
Oh yeah,
San
he'd
Diego
talk
Zoo.
about all kinds of stuff. He'd just
Man.
talk about all kinds of
Yes.
stuff. But I used to poke the bear, a little bit about
Oh,
his
yeah.
politics and stuff. But I used to have a lot of fun with him. But
Now, have you read his book yet?
oh yeah,
You did, yeah. If you didn't, I was going to offer you a copy, but we're still selling the book. It's on Amazon as well. We sell it at the clinic,
yeah.
and we give a free CD with it. One of
Okay.
his rock and roll
No,
CDs.
I
there.
read that book when it first came out.
Yeah.
And like I said, but I'd run into Locke at the Music Association, and Lord, you couldn't get away from him.
No, right.
And imagine you're me, and you run into
Your conversation, just your persona and who you are would draw him to you.
Yeah, we would just sit down and go at it, and
Right.
we would have a good time. You can not agree with people on their politics and still be friends.
Oh,
with them.
yeah.
That's what
Same.
everybody is missing out
Love you
on.
so much.
Everybody in this new age of politics is missing out on that. You used to be able to sit there across the table from your opposite or opponent side and be able to discuss these things and have a great conversation and learn something And now it just seems like we're bipolar.
Well, the more you read history, people think, oh, this is an awful time and terrible times. But if you read history, this
It's one of the
country,
freaking best times ever. I don't care.
we've been through a lot worse.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Majorly.
fought a civil war, killed 700,000 people.
Amen.
Yes.
That hadn't quite happened yet. Now, November 5th, I don't know what's going to happen.
Might be another.
We might have another one, but we've been through some stuff, and you read about it, and
It is.
when my parents were born, Adolf Hitler hadn't took over Germany yet,
Right.
but
Yes.
it was coming.
It was coming.
And
1933.
you think about what a monster he was, what a monster Joseph Stalin was,
Right.
and Mao and
Mussolini, all of
Stalin
them.
killed
Yeah.
a lot more people
Oh,
than
God.
Hitler did.
Yes.
But they all were monsters.
Yes.
And
Idiots.
Mussolini was kind of a poor man's Hitler. He just never could.
Right.
It didn't end well for him.
I just got the boot. He got the boot. That's
But it amazes me to this day how many podcasts and documentaries there are about Hitler. It just blows my mind.
right.
Or when you hear someone compare somebody to the Nazis, that burns me
Yeah,
up.
it burns me up
There's
too.
nobody in America today, a politician or anybody,
Right.
who's anything like Adolf Hitler.
No.
And it burns me up when people start describing other people as
Right.
Nazis.
Right. Right. They don't even know. They don't.
They don't know.
They don't realize the ramifications or the history or anything of what they're actually
We're
speaking
talking about
somebody that's
millions.
totally, just a psychopath, schizophrenic, in charge of a whole country of Germans or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
But like I said, I try to write books about the local stuff, and because I think it's important to keep it alive. Because, like I said, I'm not going to live forever, so it's good that Andy and Jerry
Amen. None
do
of
all
us.
that.
Yes.
Just like Mr. Pilson did for me.
Right.
And
Amen.
that's a good thing to do. But my new book is, like
So
I said,
thankful for you, man.
about
So
the
thankful.
Parkway.
Yeah, I am. I'm so thankful for you because I mean, it's I know there's other ones out there, but you speak volumes. When I go to different places, the words of Tom Perry. I mean, you've always, even when I was back on the radio back in 2006.
Oh, yeah.
Even before then, I got on the radio on WHEO. I always heard about Tom Perry. Now, I mean, it just it resonated with me when I got older. I don't know why the younger version, well, I guess the younger version cares, but when you get a little bit older, you start realizing how much your history and the place that you live, you need to know more about that.
Well, I think you just said it. When you get older, when you were in your early 20s, you weren't very interested in it.
Politics or anything.
Right. So I don't think we need to really condemn them or
No,
label them
no,
because when they turn into their 30s, they're going to be like, "Hey, what was that all about?"
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And learn. So
Here I've spent my whole life in this region.
right.
I mean, who founded this and who fought for this and who did this?
And you didn't care in your 20s.
I didn't.
You didn't.
I didn't.
So-
Unfortunately.
The difference is I did.
Right. And I love that, man. I love that
And that's
about
why
you.
you're here. That's why
That's
you're
why
here.
you're here.
I'm really boring.
No. Definitely not boring at all.
Oh, man.
I love it so
History
much.
to me is exciting. I'm not into the fiction. I'm not into the fictional storytelling of somebody's creation because I think when somebody's writing something, there's only so many stories that you could come up with.
Yeah.
That one's the guilty one, and that one's whatever the case may be. But with history, it's unstoppable. Like it just blow. You could go back and just find people that have created this world that we live in.
Yeah.
And why this is like
Why
that.
is it named
Why
this?
is the railroad that way? And why why is it named that?
Oh my
And,
God, that blows my mind.
The thing about Patrick County, growing up in Patrick County, is we have all kind of great storytellers. You run into people that just start
Great
spinning.
artists, great storytellers.
I went to hear Danny. Danny was at STEP meeting up at Arap, where they feed the older people and stuff.
Yeah.
Turner Thompson was in there, and Turner is 98 years old. And that day, the DAR gave him a certificate for his service in World War II. Now, I've known this man most of my life. He's got a grandson who's a major in the U.S. Army.
Wow.
But Turner's sitting there, and I said, well, Turner, what'd you do? And,
so it's Arad.
yes, sir. I said, what'd you do in World War
met him,
II?
thank God.
And Turner says, oh, I went in on Omaha Beach, Tom. And I
Like it was nothing.
Like it was nothing. I said, I was like, you what?
Right.
Say it again.
And he's 98 years old. Right. And old rascal, he was there. It was like him and 10 women at the STEP program.
Right.
And
I reached out to him, and he didn't.
But he
didn't want to talk about it, and that's okay.
But his grandson, like I said, is a major in the U.S. Army, and he's quite a fella. He's out in Colorado. I believe he's out in Colorado, but he's Adam Thompson. But yeah, the Thompsons, one of the first families in Arad. If you go back and look at the land, the Thompsons are one of the very first ones. Yeah.
Wow.
They started right where the Ararat came out of the mountain there, what we call Jar Gap. Where Thompson's Creek runs into the Ararat right where it comes out of the mountain.
Huh.
So they've been in there since the beginning of the county, or before the county.
Yeah.
But I'm just having a conversation. He had never told me this. I was like, well, what'd you do, Turner? And he's like, well, I was at Omaha Beach.
Okay. Just that.
We did Omaha Beach.
And of course, what do you think about? You think about Tom Hanks at the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, as Turner Thompson as Tom
Just
Hanks.
movie.
And
Right, just do a movie. Even before that, I mean, we celebrated D-Day. I think it was last Thursday, June 6th, and I was just, I'm just flabbergasted. I mean, it blows my mind that the men were men. The men were men back then.
And
I cannot imagine being in a damn floating thing. I don't even know what they call them things.
LSD or LST.
Right. And getting ready to go up there, and it was like 90% of them. It was just like, oh my God.
But you
were not going to survive this. You're doing this for your country. You're doing it for your family. You're doing it for the love of America, for the United States, for the freedom of what you have. And it just blows my mind that, I mean, it scares me actually, because I don't see that love today. I don't see that love to where you could give your life for this country. I could, or I mean, I know my brother could. I mean, I know you could. Everybody could, but the government that you're fighting for it's just not.
You had two companies, I believe, from Martinsville, who fought in the 116th Regiment of the 29th Division, who went in on Omaha Beach.
Really?
Yeah, there were two companies, I believe, from Martinsville. The guy that comes to mind is Fillmore Mentor. He was David Mentor's father, and Fillmore went in on Omaha. And but there's been a lot of guys from over here who were at D-Day.
Just sign up for it.
If you go back and read search the papers and stuff, you'll find them. And some of these guys, most of them are gone now.
Yeah,
most of them gone. But I believe there were two. The Bedford boys are the ones that are kind of famous. That's the same division.
Wow.
But I think it's the same regiment. Now that I think about it, it's the 116th Regiment, and I think Martinsville and Henry County had two companies, and the Bedford boys were one company, and they all went in on D-Day.
And I want to slow down because it just amazes me that the love that they had for protecting their families, but it was the majority of protecting their country. Just like my grandpa, he went in, he signed the day after Pearl Harbor. He signed up to be a Marine, because they felt that's what the need was for, and you're going to protect the future. And I don't feel that today. For some reason, I just don't. I know there's a lot of them out there signing up for the protection of our future. But at that time, it just amazes me that there's men, actual real men, that are going to give their lives. They don't know if they're coming back or not. Yeah. Mama don't know if her sons are coming back or her son's coming back or any of that. It just blows my mind how they're just willing to. Maybe I'm in a generation. It's I would say a blessed generation, yes, but I'm in a Generation X. I guess you could say I'm born in 1978. That
Uncle Tom gets a good laugh out of that.
right. That
I was 18 years old. I was born.
1978. They just don't realize the impact that has. I mean,
It's hard to look at.
it makes me hurt. It really makes me hurt.
I feel that a little bit different. I feel that we would.
Yeah.
I feel that we have the capability still today that would defend.
We
that.
had guys that would go in the Iraq War.
I truly do. I have some friends that have been in the Iraq War.
Yeah.
And
Afghanistan.
I want to think that
There's these men.
there are out there.
Yeah.
Just
They
because we've went another direction.
But
and
like I
defended,
said,
but I think they're out there.
I used to
think
go
we
to
will.
the high school and
agree.
teach Civil War to them, and there's some great kids. But talk about these guys at Omaha. I watched all that stuff last week, and I tell you, it still gets to me because those dudes saved the world.
Yeah.
And
That was a turning point.
you want to
of
know
World
how
War
evil
II.
how evil Adolf Hitler was. Those guys saved the world.
They went out there not knowing they were coming
And
back.
like I said, there was 2 companies of them from right here, 116th Regiment, 29th Division. But the Bedford
that
boys,
takes some damn guts and nuts.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I mean everything. I mean, you just can't explain it in words to me that those guys were like, we're doing this. I might not be coming back,
yeah.
but I'm going to do this.
But those Germans, those Prussian dudes especially, they were some bad dudes, and they were
Right.
probably some of the best soldiers that has ever been.
Right.
And we send all these untrained, sometimes American boys in to take them.
Younger than what they're supposed to be.
Yeah, and they, I'll say it again.
They fought it.
They saved the world.
They saved the world.
So what you learn?
The greatest
is
generation.
A lot of them were fighting people on methamphetamines. I know that the Nazis
greatest
used,
generation.
methamphetamines to keep their guys awake, to keep them agitated, to keep them, So, I can't even imagine what they felt going
I
over
can't
there.
either, man.
And I appreciate it. I appreciate
thankful.
you for teaching our youth and teaching us.
Need more men like you.
Absolutely need more men like you.
Yeah.
Well,
we need
now-
to be told a story. Those great storytellers that you were talking about up in ARAT need to continue to do that because that's how the word spread.
Yeah.
Right.
Or just go to the Patrick County Music Association and find the next Lock Boys.
He'll tell you all about it.
Right.
Oh, man.
We got a lot of great men in politics. Got a lot of great men that speak their mind and be able to stand up. But when you are willing, not only as a family member, to be able to give your son up or your dad up, to be able to fight and not knowing at all if they're going to come back from something that's detrimental to our country, it just blows my mind.
Yeah,
It
well-
blows my mind, and I am always going to be patriotic as far as I know, to realize that, and I want to share that with generations beyond and beyond. My kids know this for a fact. They wonder why I got American flags all in my house. They died for that flag.
Yeah.
I am not going to kneel
You,
when they speak or preach or sing the national anthem. I'm going to stand with my hand on my heart, and thank you, God. That's the only reason I'm standing here and breathing and be able to speak the way I can speak.
But watch Saving Private Ryan and watch the ending of Saving Private Ryan,
Yes,
especially
very
when you
impactful.
realize that's Matt Damon. You think it's Tom Hanks, but it's Matt Damon at the end as an old man.
Yeah.
And Tom Hanks told him as he was dying in that movie. Tom Hanks.
Tom
told him,
died.
He
Yeah.
said, "Earn this.
Earn this.
Earn this."
I love it. Earn this. God.
With that,
Praise
that's
God.
the end of the show.
Oh,
my
man,
friend.
you couldn't say it no better. Earn this. Praise God. Yeah. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Tom,
for
Love
thanks
you,
for
man.
coming out.
Want to have you
Sir.
some more.
Last
out
time we
here.
had you had books all laid out here.
I'll try to do better
We
next
got to
time.
do better. We got to get these books
We'll
out.
promote you, man.
We'll
thank
have you
a
at the
lot.
bottom. We'll have
Yeah.
links to your info and get
Yeah,
you.
please come back out here
No,
again.
anytime. I
We
love
got.
to come.
I mean, there's like 10 times more what I
Right,
want to
we
talk
could
to you
talk
about.
for 3 hours right here.
We
Now
could.
it says
We
hour.
could. We could just do it.
But-
Keep going.
Christian's got to go home. So y'all be real and come on back.
Come on back.